Happy 4th of July, everyone. This is 2024. Can you believe it? I hope everyone's having a safe one in your travels or just being at home and enjoying your friends, enjoying some time off if you're getting it. Notice in the last frame right there, Beryl starting to re-strengthen. There's that line, the eye is starting to reform and it's becoming more circular. It's because the heating of the day is on top of it now, and they go through a natural recycling progress. Now, drew this line, and I'm being as conservative as I can from the beginning of the arrow right here is just off the coast of Jamaica. I know it's hard to see. Then it came up through the Caymans earlier, and this is a straight line, but I want you to remember the graphs are curves. Remember that. And so if this thing starts curving at all from this point, it will come very close to the eye wall, not making contact on shore and not going through that slowing down process that they had anticipated. Right now, again, as I move this line, you'll see that the last frame is showing an eye wall reforming. The motion that we're seeing now has this curve. It's high pressure setting up above us. We don't know how this thing is going to react yet, but we're going to look at the latest models. Notice this last frame, the eye wall is reforming, and it's getting less ragged on the edges. Cuba, you're already starting to see it, and it looks like South Florida, you may start to see some of these outer bands push across Cuba and start out into the Keys, pushing up. You're seeing some weather along the Mississippi, Louisiana line here, a little offshore. But, guys, it's getting a little more intense. This is the second section of storms that they're watching back here. We don't know what it's going to do yet. We're going to look at the latest information that's come in. Again, last frame, eyes reformed. And again, if it stays in a straight line, you saw where the arrow went, it's just going to catch the tip of the Yucatan. It will go in, and that would be the worst scenario except for shooting the gap. Coming across here, you guys, it's already reforming. It's not slowing down yet. Now, it has since it left Jamaica. But now we're starting to see the eye reform, and it's getting into warmer waters. So you guys in the Yucatan, Cancun, and all of these locations here, Europe, pay attention to all of the hurricane warnings and watches and the evacs, because there's been destruction all along this path, guys, because you started in the Windward Islands, then you see Jamaica hit. I haven't seen many reports yet at the Caymans. It came in as a Cat 4. So you know there's more than likely most of the power's out except for emergency communications, things like that. And it's, I don't have a sat phone, but a lot of people advertise them. And it is situations like that when the cell towers are down and all where you can get communications. I'm not trying to sell them. Something to think about in a backpack. Now, this is the latest report from the National Hurricane Center. Notice it is the 11 a.m. Eastern Time update. So, guys, that's about 2.5 hours old. So I'm thinking this will have a new one very quickly. What we're seeing is the location of the storm here. It's Grand Caymans. The worst part of the storm is past you. You're still in tropical storm winds. And that's what the gold color here represents, the current wind field estimates. Tropical storm in that lighter brown. Then the darker one where the hurricane force winds or Cat 3 winds are right there. Now, that's a good thing because the hurricane force winds are not going out as far, so it's a smaller area impacted. But when it's like that, it's like a super tornado, guys. You got everything concentrated in an area now dealing with 115 mile per hour sustained winds. That's not the gust, again, Cat 3. They're showing it's going from a Cat 3 to a Cat 2 here and here. Now, when it goes from right here, it would be an M if it wasn't for the X, because that would be a major hurricane, Cat 3 or above. So Cat 2, possibly a Cat 2 here. You've got hurricane warnings out. You've got tropical storm warnings out all along this area. Then they're showing the curve starting as it's coming off the Yucatan Peninsula, guys. Then tropical storm, then a hurricane right before it comes ashore. The central part of the model shows it right here at the Mexican and Texas border. But again, the Navy model is keeping it tracking this way. And from what I'm looking at in the way I drew that arrow again across here, I'm thinking it's going to be here or maybe a little more to the east. This is advisory number 24, guys, from the National Hurricane Center. It also has not been updated in the last few hours. Notice that. But they're saying this is a location. Its present movement is west-northwest at 285 degrees or at 16 knots. Maximum sustained winds 100 km. That's 115. Basically, you're at a Cat 3 with Cat 4 gusts 120s, 138 top winds here. And if you scroll down, they're expecting it to become on the 5th tomorrow down to 90 knots and 110 knots on the top. Now, 90 knots is 103 miles per hour, so you're still in that Cat 2 area. The Cat 2 goes from 96 to 110. And that puts you at a Cat 1 with just under 100 knot or 100 mile per hour gust. Notice the next update. It's slowing down. They're saying by the 6th that it's still on land. Now, it depends on what section of the Yucatan it hits. If it goes over that wider part, yes, it could. But if it goes over the narrower part, the timing on both of these will change, and also the wind speeds. Then it continues to come back over water right here and starts to re-strengthen to, 60 knots there, 65 knots right there. So that's going to be your highest point according to this, and that's when it's starting to come ashore in somewhere in Texas or Mexico, according to that model, looking at the cones. And that's getting it back up into the Cat 1 category at that point. All of this will depend how it starts to form in the next spaghetti models and how the high pressure acts and the amount of time it spends over the Yucatan. The Fox hurricane down in Florida has got basically the same info. It's Cat 3 now. By the time it's ashore, notice it is ashore at 80 miles per hour. It's more than likely going to be a Cat 2 up to this point, slow down over the land, and then re-strengthen up until Sunday into 70 miles per hour, become a Cat 1. By Monday at 8 a.m., it's showing it coming ashore on the Mexican and Texas border right there again. Monday morning at 8 a.m. Now, notice again, it's going across the widest part of the Yucatan. That's going to create, the more it's on shore, the weaker it's going to become. That's a good thing. But it looks like it's going to track a little further north, looking at the lines that we were drawing, and also the eastward movement. Again, Cat 3 moving west-northwest, 18 miles per hour. 11 a.m. advisory. It's about time for an update. Now, the spaghetti model was just updated, guys, about 20 minutes ago, 1:30. What we're seeing is almost identical to the one we saw last night at the 5:30 p.m. update. The Navy model is still coming in mid-Texas and curving up towards St. Louis. This model is the same. The CMC is still down south a little further. Remember, it had pulled up closer to the Rio Grande in the 5:30. But the Navy model and the TABS model, or TABD model, have not changed their curve right there. Now let's take a look at the Navy model. Again, not much has changed on it at all. Central Texas and coming across the widest part of the Yucatan, I think that's going to change, and it shows that re-strengthening and back up towards St. Louis. Notice high pressure starting to set in at that point, and it may get very warm. I've seen it before after these hurricanes come through. It's hot and humid, and hope that it does not knock the power out in your area with these temps rebuilding. Now, this is the Canadian model. Again, they're crossing the peninsula about the same place as far as the models are going, but this one turns and basically follows the path of Alberta, maybe just a little further north than that. That's all, not much further than that. So it may be a record for the number of tropical storms and hurricanes that you've had so far this year. You've gotten just about everything that's came out of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico right into the same area. That may be about to change. I'm going to be very interested to see the later updates this afternoon, guys. That's going to give us an idea of the drift. When they start to update, getting at 2 p.m., heating of the day, things like that, and 4 p.m., we'll know more at that point. But we're watching it. By the way, there were reports out that I think the FBI and some other folks had put out warnings of some type of situation happening here in the U.S., and they were concerned from foreign interest or something like that, guys. And a major ammunition plant in Arkansas, it caught on fire. It was an explosion. It burned. There was a lot of fire trucks there, and it's one of the number one suppliers of mortars, missiles, different things like that. One of the larger ones, if not the largest in the U.S., that does that type of manufacturing. So something did hit it. And there is a thing called, I think it's the Red Orchestra, if I'm not mistaken, and it evolved back in World War II, and it was from Russia. I know Russia does everything, but hear me out on this one. And I'm not saying who did this, but the Red Orchestra was a group of Russian spies that were in every corner of the world. Been planted there for a long time, and they were sending information everywhere. And that's what they are saying is happening now from the people in Europe that are looking at it, because it's happening not just in the U.S., in between electrical stations, things like that, and food warehouses, burning up, all of these poultry plants, all of the things you'd think of that would hurt the food supply is happening. But sometimes, I know a lot of people think it would be nefarious folks inside the U.S. that would do these. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it doesn't seem like to me that the military-industrial complex would want to blow up one of their big money makers. So I'm not sure that that was not an outside job. Think about that. But anyway, we're going to update on it, but they are building up the military all across Europe right now, guys. And everybody is looking for bunkers. Troops are moving to the borders. Walls are going up. Tank barriers. And the Russians, let me put it this way, as quickly as France and the U.S. and other nations fly that big jets in there on the trains and the big tanks, and they park them, the Red Orchestra knows exactly where they're at. And today, in today's technology with drones and satellites, they are getting blown apart. They're taking out these Su-27s from the ship to Ukraine, or Ukrainian jets, all of that, but train loads of tanks, big new tanks, pouring into the Ukrainian area, and they're all getting bombed to pieces. That's what's happening there. I'm not sure what's being reported mainstream, but you know the links to warnews247.gr. So check that out for yourself. But right now we're going to check out these updates, and there's a couple other things I want to talk about. But right now I'm mainly concerned with where this thing is going to impact next. We're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.